it going? We're going to do a next video here on Weldments. What we're actually going to do is this is a follow-up video to the 3D sketching video. So if you didn't check that one out, jump back, check out the 3D sketching video. I show some tips and tricks on how to get some 3D sketching geometry the quick and easy way inside SolidWorks. Now the nice thing is, once you can get a sketch of something inside of SolidWorks, you can generally turn that into your model pretty quickly. All right, let me show you one really easy way to turn a model or to create a model out of a 3D sketch very quickly, especially when you're working with something that's got tubes, welded members put together or bolted connectors. Okay, so I've got this 3D sketch. We built this in the last video, and what I need to do is I need to start building up my frame. Now notice I'm in a part environment. I'm actually going to build multiple parts in this part, and that's kind of the Weldments environment. So I'm going to come up to my Weldments tab. If you don't see your Weldments tab, just right click on it, or right click on any of the tabs that are available, and you can choose which tabs are visible. So what I'm going to start out with is just this structural member. Very quick and easy. Just specify what standard you want to use, what type of element you want to use. So for instance on the bottom, I'm going to use some square tube. Specify the size. This is just going to be 2 by 2 by 3/16. And now here's the fun part. Weldments is actually a really cool environment because you simply click lines, and when you click those lines, it turns them into tubes, or angles, or channels, or beams, or whatever you need them to be. Now you can specify how you want them oriented. You can put in any weld gaps if you need to. You can rotate them. You can even locate the profile, so if this particular design or this particular edge is actually supposed to be the inside or the outside, you can click Locate Profile and just move this thing out so that the final design ends where you want it to end on that design. So I'm going to click OK and show you what I got here. I can specify a different end condition if I want. Notice it did a really nice job of mitering everything for me. So there's my nice base frame. On top of that, I need a big heavy piece of sheet metal. It's not actually metal, but it's wood, but it does come in a piece of sheet. So what's nice is I can actually flip up here to the sheet metal tab, and I can start building onto my weldment part with a piece of sheet metal. Now building sheet metal is actually the same inside of a weldment part as it is in a normal sheet metal part. Simply pick a face to sketch on and build your base flange. Now I'm going to come in here and build up my center rectangle. This is actually going to be a piece that is going to be, let's say, 40 inches by 28. You'll see that does a great job of covering up the entire part. And so I'll go ahead and accept this sketch and set my thickness. This is 3/4 inch material. I'll go ahead and click OK. Looks like I got my direction switched over there, so I'll edit my feature and simply reverse the direction. All right, so there we go. I've got my nice piece of sheet metal on there, or in this case, sheet wood. Now I need to start with the poles. Now the poles are going to be a little bit different. I'm going to go ahead and continue to use the Weldments, but instead of tube square, I'm going to choose round tube. So let's see here. That's I always have a hard time finding this one in the list here. Let's just use some Schedule 40 pipe. This is going to be a 2-inch pipe. And again, select segments. Now if I want these to be individual segments, like maybe this is a U-joint and these are 2 pieces of straight pipe, I can specify them separately. Otherwise I can check this box for merge arc segment bodies, and it'll create one large bent piece of tube. Now because I'm going to make more pieces of tube with this same shape or the same cross section, I can simply say new group and create one more group here and build it around. So there's my general frame. Now if I click OK, you're going to notice that one of these tubes goes all the way through and the other one got automatically trimmed in half. So that's really nice. Actually, we're going to have to do quite a bit of extra work trimming because as you can see, it's kind of hard to see here, the tube actually goes through the wood, and we're going to have some interferences with some of our other geometry. All right. Now it looks like I missed a couple pieces. I'm going to go ahead and edit my 3D sketch and bring on some extra members that I think are going to be necessary in order to have this thing be plenty strong. We're going to find this out here pretty soon when we do some simulation. Looks like we ended up with a little problem there. Alright. Sure doesn't like that relation, does it? All right, let's see here. Working in 3D sketches, like I said before in the last video, is like working with 3D macaroni. It can be quite a challenge. All right, let's see here. And we'll set these across from each other and set this height. Okay, so there's my general frame. That looks a little better. So now I'm going to go back in and edit my structural member and simply add new groups. Now I can't simply add them to an existing group because they're not either connected or parallel and disconnected. So you'll notice this is a connected group. I could make that in one group. I'll make one more group for these side members, and then I'll make one more group for these two pieces. Now notice neither of the two members in each of these groups was connected, but they were able to be used and unified into a single group because they were parallel. The main thing here and the reasoning behind that restriction, that requirement, is because if you don't group them in logical groups, it's going to be difficult for SOLIDWORKS to understand how they're aligned. In the case of a round tube, it really doesn't matter. But in the case of a square tube, you'll notice if you don't put them into the right kind of groups, you'll get some weird angle results. All right, so we've gotten most of our weldments in. We're going to have a few more here that we have to pull up in a second. But what I'm going to do next is I need to start trimming these models up, but I'm not going to trim them necessarily to each other. The software's already done a pretty good job of that. I'm actually going to start putting in other components, trimming them up to those other components, adding some sheet metal. We'll kind of see how this is all going to work out inside this multi-body part. Okay, so I've got a piece up here. I actually need a hexagonal member. It's actually a sheet metal block, and it's going to be where all these different members meet up. So in order to do that, I need a plane. I love the new plane functionality inside of SOLIDWORKS 2010. Simply pick a face and grab a point, and it creates a plane parallel to the plane through that point. And I can very easily come in here. Always go normal 2 on your sketch. It helps you kind of see what's going on, understand where you're at. So I'm going to build a hexagon here. And now this hexagon is going to intersect very cleanly all of my tubes. Okay, so I'll go ahead and extrude that mid-plane. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create sort of this block here in space. Now, the ultimate goal is going to be to create a sheet metal component that these can all line up to. Now, inside the Weldments environment, which is a little different than normal environments, things don't automatically merge. If I'd have done this in a normal part, this all would have merged into one big blob. But this is actually a distinct part. And what I can do with this distinct part is go ahead and turn it into sheet metal using the convert to sheet metal command. So I'll grab the convert to sheet metal command. Again, very quick and easy. Just simply grab a face, grab some edges. I love this command. If you need more advice or want to be able to see this, check out the help file. It tells you exactly how to set it up. But basically, get my radius in there. It's going to build a nice sheet metal part. And this sheet metal part can actually be flattened at any time. You can see what it looks like when it's flat. Very quick and easy. But the problem is, right now, I've got these tubes are going all the way through the sheet metal body, and I need to trim the tubes back. I'm actually going to use this structural sheet metal as the center point of my components. So I need to trim. Well, inside Weldments, there's this really nice command called trim extend. Trim extend is very powerful. It's pretty straightforward. It works a lot like trimming used to do in AutoCAD. So you specify what you want to trim, and then you specify where you want to trim it. In this case, I want to trim that body up to this face. Now the first thing it's going to do is it's going to give you the opportunity to keep or discard bodies. Notice I'm keeping this large body, but it also thinks that I might want to use this small one. I don't, so I'll just click it, click OK, and it chooses to discard that body, and now I'm trimmed up to the sheet metal. So I'll go ahead and repeat this process. I'm going to trim that body up to this face and this face. Notice I can trim one body up to multiple faces, then simply choose to discard the one in the middle. Last one here. See if I can get around so you can see where we're at. All right. So there we've trimmed everything up very nicely. I also need to trim all these legs up to the top of this piece of sheet metal. So I'll use the trim extend command, and I'll go through here and grab all of these parts and then simply trim them all to this one face. Sometimes it doesn't do the greatest job of figuring out what to keep and what to discard, but usually it does a good job. In this case, I'm going to have to go in and clean that up a little bit. Now, anytime this happens like this, where it gets a little bit off, you're just going to have to separate things out a little bit. I'm going to have to choose not to trim out these bodies. So we've got this thing put together. We've got it mostly trimmed up. I'm going to do a couple details. Plus, I'm actually going to bring in a couple components that I brought in, or that I bought. All right, they're going to be some little decorative details that I want to put into the weldment. They're actually going to be welded on. So the last detail that I want to work on is going to be in this area right here at the top. Now this is going to be for clothing and hangers, and so I want to put in some sort of a tube here to hang everything up. So again, I'll go back to my structural member. Again, I'm going to go to my pipe. This is going to be a 1/2 inch pipe. It's going to be a pretty small piece. Let me start with this one right here, because that's going to be the one that goes all the way across, and then I'll grab another group and bring this one down to it, and it'll automatically cope around that component. So I'll click OK. Everything's looking pretty good here. On the top of this tube, I'm actually going to put another decorative piece, but here at the end of this piece, I need to put a little cap on it, and it's going to be a nice turned cap to kind of keep the clothes from falling off the end of it, as well as to finish off the design. Now I've got that part already built, and it's right here in my design library. So all I have to do is drag it out. Now normally you're dragging parts into assemblies. And if you try to drag a part into another part, it gives you this message. Are you trying to make a derived part? In this case, I am. And a derived part, the way it works is you have a part inside of another part, and that part becomes part of the part, so to speak. So I've got 2 of them here. I'm going to drop them both in. And now in order to position these, I have to basically get it in the hole. The problem is, in an assembly, I could just drag it over there or add mates, but I'm in a part environment. So I have to be able to position this part inside the part. So I'm going to use a feature called Move Copy. Insert, Features, Move Copy. Now you've got 2 settings inside the Move Copy dialog. If this is the first one that comes up, you're going to want to switch, because you've got Translate, Rotate. You can move it a certain distance in X, a certain distance in Y. But I like to use constraints because they work just like mates and assemblies. Choose which body you want to move, and then simply mate this into place. This face to this face. I need to flip the mate alignment. You'll see it's not going to be quite as smooth as the assembly mates, but it should do a pretty good job. With this face, come over to here. See my preview. I've got it located just the way I want it. So I'll do the same over on this side. Insert, Features, Move Copy. So that's a really great way to go ahead and reuse parts, reuse models that you've already built, or maybe one that you've downloaded from the internet, and you're going to weld it in your design, but you don't want to have to draw it in the design like I did with that sheet metal part at the top. So this pretty much finishes it up. I can give it a nice appearance, such as perhaps a brass, in order to make it look nice and shiny. But for the most part, I think I've got my solid model. Okay, so we've got this thing put together.